Hello everyone and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero, joined by these fine gentlemen, Mr. Aaron, the voice, Nakamura.
What's up?
In view today, we have Kahai, the legend. Fergan, say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
And the one, the only, folks. We had Andrew Molina on this show, and then we had Jake Shimabukuro right after that. Now, this trend of going up is just continuing on. We got Mr. Magic Mike Odo. Round of applause, special guest.
That's a good intro.
Yeah, man, dude, for real. we're like, how do we top Jake? How do we top Jake? We're like, I got it. One guy, Mike Odo, right? Who's Jake who? Jake who? Bet you give way better ukulele advice, right? Than Shima Buckaroo.
Jake, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
I'm not. Okay. Right on, Mike. Hey, how's it going, man?
Been pretty good, man. Just
how's it
working, doing everything.
Going? Yeah. Where do you work at?
I work at Scotty's Music now.
Scotty's Music, where's that?
It's in
plug
Lihui.
your store so people can come see you.
In Lihui on the island of Kauai. Since most people have no idea where any of that stuff is, just find Walmart and we're across from that.
Yeah, we have one Walmart.
Yeah, we have one Walmart. So you can't get lost.
We don't have a Target. We don't have a
Not
Kmart.
yet.
Oh, I know. I'm excited. But until that Target is physically there and there's people working inside and there's things inside that building, I'm not convinced. Because I've heard so many rumors about like what's going to be in that place. Like it's going to be a megaplex, it's going to be this, it's going to be that, whatever. Nothing happened. So I'm going to hold my breath just because I've been hurt too many times, Like my heart's been broken so many times.
I am hoping for Target. And they have been working on the building, so something's happening.
Yeah.
And it's not a demolition crew, so.
I'm just a boy standing in front of a Target, just wanting to be loved, I got my heart broken too many times. Anyway, so music store, we're in music store.
Yes.
Right? Scotty's Music in Lihui. And so anybody who's coming down to Kauai and stuff, you guys can say hi to Magic Mike. He works over there all the time. He knows all the ins and outs of music, of ukulele, of guitar, of bass, of what other stuff is your specialty in the store?
If you play a band instrument, although this is not the right website for that, but yes, if you play a band instrument, I know a bunch about that.
Okay, yeah, he's you've actually sold a bunch of ukuleles. We have a bunch of people in our audience. This is because we're now Ukulele Underground podcast. This is no longer the Thursday Live, so there might be people who might not be familiar with who you are. I'm just kind of letting people know the deal of your expertise.
Well, funny enough, now that it is just a podcast that you can see on YouTube, I won't have that one experience where it was live lessons, but the guy only had ever downloaded the audio. So I was selling him an ukulele, and then about maybe like 10 minutes into the conversation, he's like, "Hey, are you Magic Mike?"
He called you Magic Mike?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome. Just by like hearing your voice?
Yes. By me talking to him, and he was like, "Oh, let me look at the ukulele." So I was talking about ukulele. And 10 minutes in, he's like, "Wait, are you Magic Mike?" And I was like,
I recognize that voice.
I said, "Oh, I know your voice."
Dude, I'm waiting for the day that Kahai tells me the story. It was like, I was somewhere and someone goes, are you the legend? That's like the story of dreams, man.
I think Devin has said that already.
Or Aaron, somebody going, "Are you the voice?" I recognize that
happened.
voice. That's happened too? Oh, man. So, he's an expert. He's worked with a lot of musicians, professional, world-famous musicians. No. I mean, like real musicians. Like the guy from Ambrosia.
I have worked with him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make a wish, baby, and Mike will play bass for you. Ain't no. I love that song. I played with him too, actually.
Yes,
Yeah. David Pack, you're watching. I know you aren't, but what's up? He lives here.
He does. No, he doesn't have a house.
I don't know, but
he visits here like every
Yeah,
year.
I saw him at Walmart. Speaking of Walmart.
I have a funny story about that. The last time I saw Dave at Walmart, I did see him at Walmart.
Yes.
And that song was playing on the speaker.
Really?
Yeah, no, real. I was walking through the aisles, and that's playing, and I turned down like the chip aisle, and then he's there with his wife and kid. I'm like going, whoa.
Did you make a wish,
that's
baby?
That is strange, but very fortuitous.
Oh, dude, like that's we saw him, and my mother-in-law was visiting. You know, she's a little bit older, so she knows who David Pack is, and you know he doesn't look like the old Ambrosia David Pack. He's, you know, he's a little bit older now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he is with his kids and whatnot, and I saw him and stuff, and I waved, and he like recognized me, and then my mother-in-law, who's that? I was like, oh, that's Dave Pack. He's like, who? It's like, you know the band Ambrosia? Like, that's Dave Pack, the singer. They're like, nah, how do you know him? Well, you know, I mean, it's like,
I don't know if you know, but I'm kind of a thing.
I don't know if you know, but I know Mike Odo. He knows.
Yeah,
He knows
true.
Dave Pack. That's how I met Dave Pack, is through Mike Odo. And that is the best intro that I can make for you.
That's pretty good.
It's time, everyone. We're going to have some fun today. So, today, Kahai, we're going to be answering questions that are specifically for Magic Mike. If we don't have any of those questions, people on the chat can ask him whatever they want to. Or I will ask him some questions, you know, for him. He doesn't know. He just, you know, he's in for a treat today. He, like, willingly came here. Okay? So, we didn't force him to do that. He's here, his own volition, and you're in the hot seat, sir.
I'm a glutton for punishment at times.
Yeah, this seat is fiery. Oh, we should do that. We should we should warm you up with some Voodoo Prince.
No, I watched the video when you ate that. No.
Oh no, that's not the one.
No.
That's the one before that. That's the mild one.
That's the mild one. No.
All right. So Kahai, give us our first question of the day.
Kathy had Kathy was asking if Mike can help her figure out the key to her own song, and so she said, "I believe it might be Aeolian, but the chords are from the D family. I have heard the key is what it best resolves to, and when I play out the melody on the keyboard, it was all the white keys." The chord progression is A minor, G, D sus, D7, D, and for the verse it's A, G, D, A. So
Okay, so before you answer that, how cool is it that somebody can write songs they don't know the key of? You know, like where they just like sing and it's right. You know, like they just write stuff. Like these chords sound good.
That's how you write
Yeah,
songs.
that's how you write songs. That's like how John Lennon and Paul McCartney wrote songs. They didn't know music theory. You know, like that's awesome. Keep it up.
I don't
Now.
and for this song, I don't think she did it, but for a previous song challenge, she sings the harmonies too. So it's like she's just hearing.
She knows the sequence. Yeah.
Yeah, she's just hearing what it sounds good, and she's just coming up with it without like being like, it's in the key of this, so I have to sing the third. You know, so yeah.
So kudos.
Yeah. So we did show Mike the video, so he's heard the song.
So go ahead, take it away.
So there were a couple questions that came with that. The first one, what key is it in? The easiest way to always figure out what the key of your song is what's the last chord? What's the last chord and what's the first chord? Usually with most songs, looking at the last chord and the first chord will tell you what key the song is in. So, in my opinion, having listened to your song and heard what the chords were, I would say it's in the key of A. Now, here's the thing about that. Part of the question, I believe, was if I wanted to add, say, picking parts and things like that to it, what key am I in? This gets a little more complicated because you're using chords that are out of the standard scale. So if you're playing a standard song, which is like maybe a C, F, G, 7, C, you can just take the C scale, which those are derived from, and play that, and you're fine. You have chosen to use alterations like going from an A to an A minor, and even a D and a D sus, I believe. That does change things because actually, quick side for music nerds, if you're going to do a sus chord, that means you're taking the third note and you're raising up to the fourth note, and that's your chord. So instead of 1, 3, 5, it's 1, 4, 5. And doing that creates a feeling of almost like the harmony is floating, hence the term suspended chord. So you're now using a bunch of things that are not within the key of A, which is absolutely okay. As we've said many times on this podcast, music theory, if you know music theory, all it is more of a way to be able to reverse engineer whatever you hear. If you hear a song that you do not know, having a good grasp of theory is going to allow you to logically break down what those things would be and to figure it out. So if you hear a song on the radio, you really dig it, cool. You can use your knowledge of music theory to help you figure out the ways to get to that song. When you're dealing with composition, yeah, there are, if you learn it in an academic sense, there are definitely rules to it. But like every great musician has ever said, rules are there to be broken. You know? But, and there's a big but, it helps to know what the rules are. So you're breaking them on purpose. If you want to break them on purpose, because that's your artistic vision, great. Do it. Smash them all. Most of the great musicians we've ever heard of, especially in the world of jazz or even contemporary classical, have done that. They've seen a rule that says you can't do this, and they say, I'm going to write a piece that does exactly that. just to prove that I can. So, yeah, your song's in the key of A. So if you want to add picking, at that point, I would go to the individual scales that the chords were built off of. Because obviously, if you have the key of A, which is a 3-sharp key, and then you have key of A minor, which is no sharps, no flats, you can't use the same picking based on that. Because when you move from the major to the minor, those 3 notes that should have been sharp will now clash because they're now natural. So if that's what you're looking for, yes, your song's in the key of A, and then yes, I would go individually over the different scales, different chords you're using, write out the scales that would go with those, and then use that to help figure it out. Also, you can do what you did to write the song. Just start playing around and see what works. I think eventually, if you just write it all out, if you can, and if you can't, learn how. It's a skill you will never regret having. But if you write it out, you'll probably find that the notes you ended up choosing, the ones that sounded good to you for a picking part, came from the scales that went with the chords you were playing at that time. So there you go.
Good answer. Good answer. That's Jake who? Jake who? You know?
Yeah. So basically, like when she switches to a different chord, use a different scale?
Yes.
Just use the scale that matches the chord over that chord.
You're right.
Yeah.
So when she's moving to an A, so in the first 2 measures, she's playing an A major. That's A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A.
Yeah.
And then she's moving to an A minor, which is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. So when she's playing that A major chord, use that first scale. When she's playing the A minor chord, use that.
Did she play A major or A minor when she gets to the G? Because she switches to G afterwards. Yeah. A minor and the G, or is she playing a G?
I would use a G scale. I would use a G scale. I would test, because it's in the key of A, the F sharp and a G will probably work. But I would also test it against those others just to see. Oftentimes when it comes to composition, there is that idea of, just throw it up in the air, see what works. Keep playing it. There's the 2 schools of composition a lot of people went with. Number 1, we call it the Mozart school or the Beethoven school. Beethoven was a rewriter. If you listen to any stories about anybody who lived in proximity to him, whatever place he rented at the time was covered in music. Because after he ran out of paper to write his music on, he just started writing it on the walls, on the windows. It was like A Beautiful Mind, except with music. But I mean, Beethoven was pretty much known for just trashing whatever place he was in to make it work. He was known for after he went deaf, he actually sawed the legs off his piano. So it would sit on the ground, and so he could put his head to it and feel the vibrations. But people have actually sold it. If you go look at people who've auctioned stuff off, they'll be window panes and stuff that had his scribbles on it. Oh, really? Yeah, cool. And they've auctioned off for thousands and thousands of dollars because that's how he was. He would write it. No, I don't like that. Scratch it up, write it in. Mozart was the opposite. He worked everything out in his head before he put anything down on paper. If you ever seen the movie Amadeus, that they kind of touch on that where they said like, oh, well, you need to rewrite this. And no, it's perfect the way it is. The way Mozart worked, he would work everything on his head. So by the time he actually put it down on paper, it was the finished version of what he wanted. So he went through all the drafts in his head before he put anything down. Whichever one you happen to be, if you want to work it all on your head, that's fine. If you want to record yourself and play every variation of something so you can hear what it sounds like, do that. Whichever one works for you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that I think there's a gap in the verses where she could solo over, or like you can kind of hear in the verse where she solos over, and the verse chords are A, G, D, A. So for that, it's like a little bit simpler, but like what would you say, even though it might like stray off a little bit, what would you say is like the safest key for her to try and solo, just if she had to pick one key over those chords?
A, G, D, A.
So the problem is you have the problem is you have two chords. You're adding like a sharp between every one. So the key of A, an A chord has 3 sharps in it. Key of D has 2, and key of G has 1. So the problem is, okay, so the fastest, easiest one would be use a chromatic scale.
That's what I was going to say.
For those of you who don't know what a chromatic scale is, it's when you play from like C to C, but you play all the notes in between.
No.
So
Just every fret.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
One sec.
Oh, hold on.
So people can hear.
Let me.
Oh.
Okay.
I was also gonna say, doesn't D have all 3 of those chords in it?
key of D.
Yeah, that's why. Like, my guess was that it was in the key of D.
Yeah, it does. But
D would be 1, G would be 4, A would be 5. Yeah?
Right. But remember, in that sense, when you're using an A in the key of D, you're thinking of an A7 chord. So you're removing one of the sharps.
What if it's not an A7 chord?
and it's also an A minor.
Actually, D to A minor. Well, and the D to A minor versus D to A major is like you're either adding a sharp or you're taking away 2 sharps. So the problem is when you're dealing with what they would call non-diatonic keys, meaning that the chords you're using are not all from the same key. The problem you run into is the inability then to use a unifying scale, because there isn't a unifying scale anymore.
Yeah.
So like if we were doing, say, C, F, G7, and A minor, the thing is that if you break down those scales, they're all starting on different degrees, but it is the same scale.
Yeah.
Now, when you're talking about A to G or G to A to D to everything like that, what you're dealing with is that you are now moving out of that. So the scales that you were built off of are different.
It's temporarily moving.
Yeah. And when you do that, I mean, there's ways around it. There's ways around it. You could use those sharp to naturals as passings, you know. You could simply write down those scales and figure out what the common notes are and just only use those.
Yeah.
Now, would that be an actual scale? No, not really. I mean, I guess you could find a scale name for it with a bunch of alterations, you know. But in real life, what you would just do is you could do that where you just write on an A major scale, then write on a G scale, write on a D scale. Remove all the notes that are not constant among all 3 and see what you have left.
Yeah.
You'll probably end up with quite a few, because through D and A, you have the C sharp and the F sharp. The G sharp in A is the only problem. You just remove that. But see, we've run into a bigger problem because a G natural chord is within that. It was in that framework. So that note absolutely won't work. And so what would you do? Would you play something chromatic where you play and then go up like a half step or down a half step? That's kind of up to you, though. In the end, play it, record yourself playing it, see if you dig it.
Yeah.
If the answer, if you don't like it, change it. You know, it's your song. Do whatever you want with it.
I was gonna say that it brings to mind things like Hotel California, where it's definitely in the key of B minor, right? But then it changes keys as like with every movement of that song. So it starts out with the B minor, then gets to that F sharp, which is in the key of B minor, and then it would go to A, and into E, which is another totally different 1/5, and it goes to G, and it gets to D, which is a totally different 1/5, which is a step lower, and then it goes to F, C. Am I going to F, C? I don't know. D minor, then E. No, I guess. I'm thinking of it in A minor.
It's
but
been
it
a
goes,
while since he played this on a
A,
gig, guys.
E. And I think it goes to, where does it go? F sharp minor? Does it go? I don't know. One of those. No, E minor. Yeah, it'd be E minor, then it goes to the F sharp again. I usually play this in A minor. That's I'm confusing myself. But then that F sharp is a bridge to get back into the B minor, but then it doesn't stay in one key. Like I do a lot of solos on this song. Like Aaron and I play this tune a lot. And when I'm doing solos on that, it changes every time, like the song kind of calls for a different set of chords. Like the first two are one set, the next two are another set, the next two are another set. So it's kind of like that. We're like, so you have that A, and then when you move over to that A minor, already this kind of switches. So you would pick different notes,
different set of,
and then go to that G. Those two might be kind of connected, that A minor and G, but depends on how you're singing it. Depends on the notes that that you want to use there. It can connect. It doesn't have to. There are definitely lots of similar notes between the A minor and the G. With F sharp being F sharp is the only thing that's going to be different. But if you would just avoid F and F sharp altogether, you're all good. Just play everything except for that, and which is what Mike was saying actually. What the similar notes are. But I just want to kind of show so that you get a visual for exactly what we mean.
Yeah. Aaron, do you remember how the verse kind of goes? Just the A, G, D, A.
Oh.
Yeah. It's not A minor. It's just A, G, D, A. I think.
Yeah. What about?
Well, I was saying if you can remember kind of the rhythm, can you try to kind of pick over it, Aldrine, or show what you would kind of think of doing?
Did she go G? I don't even know. I forgot the chords.
I thought it was A minor.
Yeah, I thought it went A to
I think
A
the verses
minor,
are A
then
to A
G,
minor. Then
right?
the chorus he was saying is A to
Just to the G.
A, G, D, A. Yeah.
A, G, D.
Play that again. Is that the last chord A?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's try that again.
I think. Yeah.
So that's basically what I was doing. I was trying to keep there. I added the C when it went back to the G, but other than that, I stuck to basically what Mike was saying, and trying to see which notes is similar between all three of those.
Yeah.
Like that B would definitely, because that B note is in a D chord, D scales, and a G scales, and an A scale, so I kind of stuck there. So is the D note. So B and D, I was using that kind of a lot. When it switched from that A to the G, that's when I added the G natural, because that G is a G sharp in the key of A. So I waited until I got to the G. That's when I played that. Okay, and when I played A, I would play that A, B, and C sharp. But then when Aaron got to the G, I played that C to get back down to the B, to just kind of this nice little run. Other than that, yeah, basically just what Mike was saying. Just do that, do that thing.
Whatever sounds good.
Just you do you, boo.
But there's levels too.
Yeah.
At the beginning you can do that. Because it makes it a lot simpler.
Yeah.
then maybe eventually you're going to want to try to do the thing where you actually take the 3 different scales.
Yeah, let's do that, Aaron. Let's play those chords for me again. Let's do that. Let's just play the scales. So tell me when you change, okay? And tell me what you're changing to.
A. G. D. I'll go to the A minor after A. A minor. G. D.
All that's running through my head this whole time is Hawaii 78.
Yeah, I guess so.
I was thinking Sweet Child of Mine the first time that I heard it. Yeah.
So that's
Oh, yeah,
that's
Sweet Child of Mine, yeah.
Which also shows you the connection between all music.
so that's kind of like where you can hear that when you're playing specifically to the chords, it sounded a lot more like in sync with the chord that's playing, right? And then kind of when you're picking around it, it sounded okay, but then it's like it didn't sound specific to the chord. It sounded like you're picking around and like kind of still finding your place.
Right. So. And the thing is, though, for certain styles of soloing, that may be, some people may like that feel of like a unifying, quote unquote, a unifying scale over the everything. And then some people really like that sound of like changing per chord. Like when the chord changes, what I'm playing, my scale I'm using, everything is now changing to reflect that. That's like a personal. That's like a personal taste.
Also reminds me of Home in the Islands. Right? And then a key change, and the key change, and the key change, and then another key change.
Yep, that song is definitely
It's in
like
all
that.
of the keys.
It's in all the
basically.
keys. There you go.
Yeah.
It's in all the keys.
Yeah.
Good job.
Or like Hey Joe.
Yeah. Which is an E.
Which
Yeah, it's actually an E.
Until you play
E
it.
blues. E blues. Yeah.
Until you play it, and then you think it's in about 4 other words.
Yeah. It should be E. That's the answer. It should be E. What key is that song in?
Hey Joe?
Yeah.
It's an E blues.
Yeah. See? Well, yeah. I'm glad we agree.
With a few alterations.
Yeah, watch Adam Neely's like 20-minute video on it.
And even Adam Neely, right? He says that, and like he says that people argue about what key it's in and everything, but then he's like, guys, this is a guitar song that, you know, the person wrote it on guitar, so it doesn't have anything to do with like, oh, you gotta play it, you gotta match it to piano kind of music theory. It's like, it's just because the chords are right there for guitar. So
it's just a great like circle of fifths song. That's what it is. A C, then to the 5, then to the 5, then to the 5 of that, and then to the 5 of that.
He was doing that one. What is another one? He did a big analysis on Sir Duke by Stevie Wonder. That one's a pretty gnarly one because that's actually a good example too of someone who uses a chord that's way outside of the key the song's supposedly in, but like is perfect for that.
Love that song.
Don't set it on fire now.
It's a circle, so you will never stop playing the song.
Yeah, there's a circle of fifths. C, then the 5 is a G, then the 5 to that is a D, then the 5 to that is an A, then the 5 to that is an E.
We do have another question for Mike, though.
Sure.
Okay.
Go, Mike. Go ahead, buddy.
Sup.
Okay, so this is from Brian, and he says, I'm learning some chord substitutions to jazz up my progression. I can find plenty of examples of what to play, but I do not know how to do this with other players. If a bass player is outlining chords, do we discuss beforehand the substitutions, or do they continue to outline the original progression and then lay the changes over top?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, being a bass player, I can answer this. So there's two ways to think about it. Okay. If you are doing years now ago, we did a show on chord substitutions, and
Check it out.
there was
good episode.
You should. It's really good. I looked cute there. Now there are a couple of types of substitutions where you could just do them, and then whatever the bass player is doing, it should be okay. Some of the ones we talked about was changing a major to a minor, minor to a major. Those you can pretty much do because it's not going to change. If you're going in, if the bass player is playing the note A, and you're playing an A major, and then all of a sudden you just superimpose an A minor, you're fine.
Go for it.
Because what he's or she is doing is not going to change.
The lay of the land, right? That's it. A is the bottom.
A is the
base.
That's it. Yeah, it's the
Establishes
base.
it.
If you are adding extensions onto the chord, like you're going from a standard C7 to like a C13 or a C7 sharp 9, something like that.
We're uke players, Mike. 13 that's a little too much.
I've met Abe.
Well, someone's got to bring up Abe for some reason. All right,
Okay,
let's all
fine.
talk about Abe.
I've met Benny then.
Oh, well, I'll shut up now. No.
So if you're doing those, no, you're okay. Now, if you're doing a substitution in which you're actually changing the root of the chord, like you're doing a tritone substitution or something like that, no, in that case, you should kind of work it over with your other chord playing bandmates. Hey, by the way, I'm replacing this chord with this chord, because if I was doing a tritone substitution going from a C to like an F, and I use that G flat chord, and you're expecting me to use something else, that's going to clash out a little bit. I mean, who knows? Maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's going to sound even more jazzy because.
Could you explain to the audience who might not know what a tritone? I totally know what it is. Maybe
Okay.
for the people who don't know, it's just
Okay.
Yeah, let's refresh their memory about what a tritone substitution is, Mike. Because not for me either.
Okay.
for the
No.
audience.
I know you know. We were talking about right before we started.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Exactly. So a tritone substitution is simply a form where you're substituting one chord for one called a tritone away. Okay.
C, then you go to
So
a G flat.
G flat
to an
or an F
F,
sharp,
yeah.
but it's really a G flat.
Yeah.
So basically, a lot of times you will see tritone substitutions where you're going from the one chord to the four chord, and the substitution is going to actually become the chord that's a half step above the four chord. So instead of going from just C to F, please, if he goes from like a C to a G flat to an F, it sounds a little weird. I'm not lying. It's going to sound weird. But it's almost a way in some compositional techniques in order to have a little bit more lateral continuity between chords. So instead of going like boom, up, down, you're almost going like boom, then
boom,
up,
boom.
and then like a downward slope like that.
And it's equal distance.
A tritone is 3 whole steps
Yes.
away from wherever you start. Hence, tritone.
Yeah.
I have to make sure to explain those ones because
I didn't know that was. I was just joking about not knowing it.
I remember someone having having an epiphany over the word octave.
Yeah, Kahai.
A few years ago.
Get on our level.
So if you're doing those type of substitutions, yes, you should probably go over with your other bandmates that you're planning on doing a substitution of that sort. There's another one we were talking switching out for the relative major, relative minor. For instance, if you have a C chord, switching it out for an A minor chord works because all the same notes are being used just in a different order, or the scale is the same. And you can do that. However, yeah, if the band knows like C, 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 you know, or then G, and you go C, 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 A minor, G, the bass player especially is going to have an issue with that because you're breaking the continuity of like the bass line versus the chords. So,
but Magic Man,
yes,
is it wouldn't it just be an A minor over C? If you the bass player is playing C,
it would,
and
but that,
I do a C, then A minor, then back to C.
It would. However, those are two different chords.
Would you like? So you're a professional bass player, Mike.
Yes.
If somebody did that to you, would that freak you out, or like would you like I got this?
I mean, I played some wackos over the time. So, no, that doesn't faze me that much. But here's the thing. I know, like, who I'm playing with. I kind of know what kind of tricks and swerves they might do. If I'm playing with Aldrine's more of like a straight ahead player. So we're gonna like, he's not gonna like substitute like something really weird and out of the chord. Unless he tells
true, Aaron.
We had one last week. We were doing that a bunch last week, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's
he's never done that when I
normal.
played with him.
yeah.
Like that was special. That was for you.
Oh, thank you.
But the thing is, like, if he's gonna do some random, really out there substitution, he's gonna tell me about it before. Like, hey, I'm gonna try and do this here, you know. And if I don't know if he just gets swept away by the moment and does a whole bunch of stuff I wasn't prepared for. It was like, well,
That happens.
That's live music.
That's live, baby.
Now, as an example, there's somebody else I play with. His name is Hank Curtis. Hi, Hank. You're probably not watching this because you're a pianist.
Okay, here we go.
And
Here we
he
go.
knows.
Spill the dirt. Spill the dirt, Mike.
Hank is a super advanced jazz pianist that I used to play with. And with him, it's literally like I had to be on my toes every second of every measure of every song because I would have no idea where his brain would take him. And even though anything he did would make logical sense, he could explain it to you why he did it. If you weren't prepared for it, it still would like, whoa, where did that go?
Yeah.
You know? And I did have talks with him at times. It's like, hey, if you're going to go way out on the hairy edge,
let me know.
kind of just give me a look and just give me that look that says like, hey, buckle up. You know?
If he's doing this, he's like,
Buckle up.
buckle up. That's what I'm gonna do to Aaron now. Like, so we're playing the song. If I'm gonna just buckle up, Aaron. Here we go. Or buckle up.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And the thing is, like I said, whatever Hank did would make sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would be a little more atonal than other times. And if you don't know what atonal means, it's when you kind of throw out key centers and keys and just play whatever.
Yeah. I've been in that drum circle.
Now imagine it with a piano. But he could make it work. You know, he had enough knowledge where like if he was heading way out into like the far reaches of a song, like it made sense how he got there. It wasn't like, hey, we're playing a song in C. I'm just gonna switch to F sharp right now for no reason other than to screw everybody else up. He wouldn't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, if he was going to F sharp, which did happen, he would do that by modulating a few things to get us to there. You know, so we had the opportunity to like catch up in our ears, like, where's he going? Oh, he's going there. Okay, he's going there. Now I see the pattern of what he's doing. So yeah, if you're about to throw a lot more jazzy progressions and substitutions in, do talk it over with your band, especially if you're going way out there.
I think it depends too, right? Like on the situation, because if you're jamming and you kind of want to be like, let me throw this out, see how they react, then it's like that's just doing it for fun, right? But if you're like in a performance,
there's an amazing amount of difference between that and that. You know, if someone were to do that in a jam session, I play every Friday night in a jam quartet with some friends, and yeah, we'll do that to each other all the time. But it's mostly just for fun, and we laugh. And like, if it really causes like a train wreck, we just stop and say, "What did you do?"
Yeah.
And they'll tell us, and like, "Oh, okay, let's try it." Then sometimes when we take music, we'll just make a note on it and say, "Like, try this here."
But at some point, like you get good enough that you feel when something's happening in the song. Like when you jam with somebody, like you'll feel when something's happening, and you just kind of follow along with whatever they're doing. If like say Hank will start to do this crazy modulation from C to F sharp, he doesn't just go from C and then F sharp like that. He's doing something to get there.
No,
and
yeah,
as a musician,
as a musician, he leads you.
You'll hear it, and no, I'm just saying that you'll be able to get his, eventually, like if you keep at it, you'll hear the changes and go with that. So as a bass player, you can kind of like, okay, well, I guess Hank is gonna go to F sharp now. That's where this is leading. Like,
and a big part of that, and this is a good piece of advice for everybody who's starting to get into that world of wanting to that like jam and really be there, is be in that moment. That a lot of people jam out and then their brain kind of mists away a little bit. And the thing is, if someone's doing that and you're thinking about what you're going to have for lunch tomorrow, you're going to have troubles.
Well, we've even told people, like we've talked about people send in student reviews of them like jamming with other people or like trying to improvise. And then we tell them like, we can actually kind of hear that you're thinking about what you're playing instead of just like it playing, right? Like it comes out. So it's like, even that, like you kind of want it to be like Aldrine said, where it's like you're feeling it, but you're not necessarily like freaking out about like, oh God, it's gonna go to F sharp. What notes are in F sharp? I better get ready.
Right. No, and like I would probably say for a lot of people, your ultimate goal is to get, as weird as like hippie as it sounds, but be in that moment, and really just that moment. If you can really reach that state where like you are really listening to what is happening, you are hearing the connections between all your bandmates at once, people going way off into something else will not surprise you nearly as much because you'll hear it. If I wasn't paying attention to when Hank's playing something and starting to make that move, I wouldn't catch it.
Yeah.
But because I am really working hard to be in that moment and thinking about it and not looking off the stage at like the cute girl at the bar or something like that, I hear it, I feel that it's happening, and I go with it. Meanwhile, if I was distracted like that, I wouldn't have caught on something, or I might catch onto it too late. Like he'll be there and then like he's going to go to F sharp and I'm thinking we're still going to go back to like, say, like a D chord or something like that. And then bam, it hits and really sounds bad.
I mean, and if it happens, that's kind of like, those are the best learning experiences because then you're like, oh,
Don't do that again.
Yeah, I got to keep on my toes. Oh.
Has Hank done that like at a performance and you had to kind of like catch up?
Oh yeah, we do that at gigs. He would do that to us at gigs.
Wow, that's
he
awesome.
He would do stuff like you like look at us and call out new chord progressions on the bandstand. Like we're playing a song and he's like, hey, we're gonna vamp in the middle. I want you to go from this chord to this chord to this chord to this chord.
And
here we go. Bam.
Yeah, like 7 chords. Just remember that.
Just remember this. Go.
Here's a sequence.
So if you're playing with people like that, then yeah, chord substitutions are probably not gonna be too.
You're like
out of left field.
You're like some kind of good. Then, like some kind of a good musician.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you can do stuff like that.
I mean, I lie well on a resume.
Okay. So you're like, it's a kind of professional. Like, you play for money.
I've played with Aldrine Guerrero.
What's it like playing for money?
It's almost
okay. Let's not get into
I've only really played for box lunch.
It's almost like you taught every person in this room music or something.
2/3 of them.
You're like some kind of music actor. You have earned that hat, Mike. Okay, Kahai. Any more questions?
Yeah, we do have a couple more questions. So we have 2 questions. Maybe you can answer this one pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Kristen Sue asked, where do all the weird scale names come from? Ionian,
Greek.
Dorian. Okay. Good.
It's true. They're all Greek.
Yep. Okay.
Do you know what the Greek word is for? Like what
the actual translation?
Yeah.
Actually, no. I just know what the Ionian scale is. This root scale. Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, and back to.
I've had some great aioli at Oasis.
Pretty good. Okay.
Yeah. So Joko asked, do minor chords make people feel a certain way because we're actually culturally conditioned to feel that way, or is it something in the sound itself?
Oh, holy musicology question, Batman.
Oh, hey,
That's right.
hold on to your crystals.
What came first?
Let me get my chakras in order here.
Yeah, I guess.
What came first, the chord or the note?
Yeah.
That one's actually, I can answer. Chord. Notes. Notes came
Notes.
first. Because chords are made from notes.
Yeah, but
Notes
what
are
a note's
combinations.
made of.
Well, going,
But who gave birth to the notes?
if you go back, the first music was basically percussion, like cavemen banging on rocks and stuff like that. So, or first human music, I should point that out. However, you know, animals have had music of many sorts for a lot longer than humans have been around. Yeah, because individual notes, and since you can't play chords on rocks, you know.
Just you wait, Mike. I'll show you. I can play chords.
I'm
around.
getting
I mean,
some
if you
fire
put like
with
a
it, dude. We're like, let
gamelan,
me
like
go find
stone
some
drum,
rocks.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Power chords are rock chords.
Good answer.
we're back to Sweet Child of Mine again.
Do we even need to hear the answer anymore? Let's just close the podcast.
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
We got like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
I can use 11 of them. So is it that we're culturally conditioned to feel minor as sad? You know, I would tell you this. That's actually something that is still argued between musicologists and like psychologists and things today. Because there are definitely cultures in this world where minor sounding music or minor key music sounds happy. I think since we just covered names, if you listen to a lot of Dancing Creek music, Balkan, Eastern European music, a lot of that is minor key, but that's all like wedding songs and dances and stuff like that. That's
Turkish.
Nobody would say that's a really sad sounding song. That's actually a very let's get up and dance song.
There's a major in there.
There is,
there's a major
but that's at the second half.
Yeah.
So is minor inherently sad? I would actually say no. Simply because there's too many examples of music that is minor key based that sounds happy, sounds like a party. Japanese music. If you listen to a lot of like J-pop music, a lot of it uses like blues and or minor key type melodies, and yet no one would. What's it from? I think it's from a Sonic the Hedgehog game. Ivan Polka. Hakune Mitsu does it too. Do you know that song?
The
If
lead song.
if it's not in Monster Hunter, I've not heard it.
But if you've heard that
Lots of
song,
great Japanese songs in it.
that is a lot of great. Actually, there's a great relaxation Monster Hunter.
Oh yeah.
One
No,
of those
Rise
long-
has a lot of Japanese.
No, it does.
Anyway,
It does.
keep going.
But no one would no one would listen to Ivan Polka and say like, oh my gosh, that's a really sad song. No, that's like a get up and dance song. So a lot of music from the Eastern countries, Eastern Europe, all the way out through Asia, generally actually has more minor sounding music, and yet nobody necessarily counts that as sad unless you also include that. Now this is where I kind of think it does mesh. If you match minor key music with slower tempos, that definitely then starts to bring a more somber kind of feel to it, you know? It brings a more somber feel to the music. But the truth would be the same too, is if you took a major key thing and played it really soft and really slowly, it'd be kind of hard to say, oh, this sounds the quote unquote major happiness.
Yeah.
So I think it really comes down to the song and the style of music you're playing in.
Yeah, I think like that labels, right? Like the happy, major is a happy chord, minor is a sad chord, is like an easy way to kind of look at the chords when you're first getting into
Absolutely.
the idea.
Yeah.
But then as you kind of grow as a musician, you realize that like, not really, and you can kind of
Shades of gray.
and
It
you
is
can,
what you make of it.
it can be more complex emotions rather than just happy and sad, right?
Yeah.
And I do that with beginning students too. When I'm teaching little kids, if I play them a major chord, I say this is the happy sounding chord. And if I play a minor, this is the sad sounding chord. But that works when they're like 6. It doesn't work so good when they're like 13, 14. Then like, because then how would you describe the emotion of a dominant 7th chord? Or a diminished chord, which is technically more minor than minor. Or even an augmented chord, more major than major. Do you then say, well, diminished chord is really sad?
It's like depressed.
It's a clinically depressed chord.
A depressed chord.
Or do you say the augmented is like the ultra happy chord? At that point, it doesn't really work so good anymore.
I have a question.
Sure.
So this is our finale. Right now.
Are you about to make me make a connection between two things that don't
No,
relate to each other?
no, not today. After the show. So we've discussed this on this show, and Jake was just here. And we must have discussed this maybe last week or the week before. But on the song "Me and Shirley T," you familiar with that song?
Are you going to ask about that crazy ass chord at the end?
Yes. It is C flat 5. What is the purpose or reason that a man like Jake Shimabukuro would end on a flat 5 chord?
Okay. I have actually thought about this because we discussed this on a podcast, and then you had Jake on. I did watch that.
I didn't ask him. I should have. I don't know. I was starstruck.
I thought about it, but it made me think of that question, and I do
Yeah.
actually kind of have an answer for it.
Yes. What is it? I just wanted your opinion. I know the answer. But
Okay, so you tell me.
no,
what
I
it
mean,
is.
I'm just wanting to make sure you know.
Here's why.
And I'll tell you my answer.
In music, a lot of times people create what I think are called phantom effects. They do something because our ears will fill in the gaps. Okay? So there's an example of certain like chords you can play that if you leave out certain notes, right? People still hear the same chord because their brain, having heard it so many times, fills in the spots that aren't there. So a quick theory when you're voicing chords in jazz, because someone was asking about that, a lot of times when we need to voice chords on the piano, we start with only 2 notes, the 3rd note and the 7th note. And the reason is the 3rd note and the 7th note will always change if you're changing the chord. Okay? Whereas the 1st and the 5th do not change. The 1st never changes because the C is a C is a C. The 5th needs to get to a diminished or an augmented chord to actually change. So it means you're going through major, minor, and dominant 7th before the 5th changes. So you can't really use that as a good anchor. Whereas the 3rd note and the 7th note, one of those two, if you have both of them, one of them will change every single time.
Just major to minor alone. It's like 3 flat 3.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing, though. If I get on the piano and I play you the 3rd and the 7th of any chord, right? Most times you're going to be able to still tell what chord I was playing. You may not be able to, if you don't have perfect pitch, you can't say like, that's a C major this. But if I play you just the 3rd and 7th, you'll be able to tell me.
So 4 and 7?
3 and 7.
3 and 7, is that going to be like dominant 7, regular 7?
But see, well, that's what I'm saying. So if it's so if I'm playing C major 7,
Play it. Yeah, okay.
right?
Okay.
I get a C and a B natural, E and a B natural. Okay. If I go to C dominant 7, I go to E and B flat. So one thing has changed.
So from
if I
here
go to C minor
to this.
Yeah, you see, one thing is always changing. See, the thing is now that if I just play those, you will be able to follow that sort of the structure that I'm doing. Even though I'm leaving out, even the root note I'm leaving out, and you can still follow it because of the other two creating that sound in your head. Now, here's what I think is happening a lot of time when Jake does that and leaves that note hanging. Play that chord again. The lick in the chord. If you just listen to that and you're listening to that, doesn't your ear automatically start to hear that F sharp resolve?
Because you've heard it before resolve.
You see, you're doing it now.
No, I know. I'm just giving them an example of like what it would be.
But
then
the G is there.
You almost hear it later.
You almost hear it after the music stopped.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that might be part of why he's doing it, because he's literally playing you a chord that's the final chord, but it's really not, Because the last chord, which is the consonant C to G, you're going to hear it in your head after he's done. So he's now playing. Let's just call him right now.
you want to know my answer?
Yes.
You want to know why I think that? Well,
He's evil?
no. In music, there's something called phantom effects. Well, that about does it for Ukulele on the Ground podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening in. We're here every Thursday, 1 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. Join us live one of these days, or if you like listening or just watching this afterwards, keep doing that. Download the podcast, listen to it, watch the show. Let us know what you think. Ask questions, whatever it may be. Right after this, we do have a open mic that's going to be happening at 2:30 Hawaiian time. But we'll probably be on about 2:20. If you want to participate, we'll be on at about 2:15, 2:20. We go on till everybody gets a chance that wants to play. Okay. Let's see. Sometimes we go for like couple hours, sometimes just an hour and a half, depending on how many people are there. It's always good fun, so make sure you can just come in. You don't even have to play. You can just come in, just watch everybody else play. Tomorrow we have Aloha Friday Live Jam, and also recently we put up Hene Hene Ko'aka by Izzy.
We watched it. We actually watched that at the store yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
No,
Please do not perpetuate that version of his name.
Every time we play at a gig and stuff, and people want that Somewhere Over the Rainbow song and stuff. Like, do you know that song by Izzy? It's always been like an inside joke. Like, oh yeah, Izzy.
Where did that start?
I have no idea.
Please,
people call him Izzy. Yeah, I guess.
Please don't perpetuate that for anybody listening.
Yeah,
please,
don't
please
repeat
don't
that.
Perpetuate
It's Israel.
Or is.
We have like 30 seconds. I'll tell a quick story because you were bringing this up.
Sure.
I actually did play with him
Israel Kamaki Viola?
one time.
Whoa!
It was nothing special, but it was special to me.
Yeah, well,
I was a ninth grader. Ninth grader in high school.
Oh, so you were like part of a big band in
Yes.
the back. Yeah, that's cool though.
My high school band,
Yeah.
Kapa, we played the halftime show of the Hula Bowl in 1990 and 91, and he was the headline act. We got to play Margarita with him, and actually our band ended up right next to his stage.
Yeah, not to be confused by Margaritaville. Margarita is
Margarita's
an awesome
one of his songs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the hilltop in Tahiti.
That was
you still know how to play that? Oh, what were you
On
playing?
alto saxophone?
Alto
No, I would not know how to play that.
Come on. That would have been an unforgettable experiance. And you'd be like, I still remember to this day.
I actually saw the sheet music in a folder somewhere, but no, that I do remember that. That ties into like.
That's cool. Is he the most famous person that you played with? Who's the most famous person you've played with?
No,
You've jammed with?
Kenny Loggins.
Kenny Loggins.
Yeah.
He's pretty
Kenny
famous.
Loggins would be the most famous.
I don't know. I played with this guy from Ambrosia.
David would be right up there.
I met him through my friend Mike.
I mean, it depends on generation too.
Yeah, I played with Jake Shimabukuro. That's people know that name,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Abe Lagrimas. I've played with Abe Lagrimas. Have you played with Abe Lagrimas?
I have.
Oh, well. I've also played with Jake. Oh, well, never mind that. Who have I played with that you haven't played with?
Oh, that I'd like to play with?
Yeah.
Style-wise, Craig and Sarah.
Yeah, they are cool.
They're jazz people, and jazz is kind of my foundation.
I'll introduce you one day. Yeah?
Excuse me, I call him by his full name, Craigeris Chief.
Craigeris Chief.
What did that
Craigeris. Craigeris.
If you're watching, I have no idea what any of that is about.
He knows where it comes
But
from.
you guys are jazz guys. That's why I dig it.
Yeah, so. Yeah, Craig Chief. That's a good one. That's a good answer. They're awesome. They're
They're jazz
great.
guys. I like the jazz thing. So.
Wow. Yeah, they are jazz people. Yeah. Neil Chin is a jazz person too. Have you played with Neil Chin?
No, I've not.
He's great. You guys should,
What about this young kid, Abe Lagrimas?
Or Benny,
young kid.
the
Benny?
young
Another
man.
guy, Benny Chong.
Benny Chong. Have you played with Benny Chong?
I've seen Benny play many times. But
have you jammed with him?
No, because he's always got Dr. Byron with him. So.
I guess so. Yeah. It's like.
By the way,
sorry,
I think
Mike.
Byron's ukulele book's really good.
Oh yeah, he has ukulele books.
Byron?
Yeah,
he
I
wrote
didn't
like
know
a
that.
beginner's method for reading ukulele.
Okay, I'm gonna have to.
I'll
check
bring
that
it
out.
to you. You can check it out.
I played with Lauren Bouchard.
I have not had that one.
You know what's great about all these teams is that I gotta find all the links for these people. Thank you.
Yeah, let's name more people. So.
There was one guy named Jeffrey Steele. He's awesome. Country writer, wrote all the big hits for Rascal Flatts.
Who's that guy from Evanescence that we jammed with?
Ben Moody.
Ben Moody, that guy was cool.
Ben Moody. He's one of the two songwriters for Evanescence. I did also Robert Schwartzman. He was in the band Rooney.
Oh yeah, the Rooney guy. Yeah, the Rooney guy. Who's the guy with the big hat? Who gave the big hat to Jake at the show?
Oh, I don't.
He's
know.
like a.
This was at the Hyatt, right?
Yeah,
Butch Walker.
Butch Walker. Amazing.
Butch Walker.
Amazing.
Yeah, another one. No, the year before was when I actually played for Lisa Loeb.
Yeah, just name drop.
Lisa,
Yeah,
that is.
but she didn't play. That was the weird part.
I
I was playing. It was the first time I'd ever played with John Cruz.
Oh, nice.
And if you've ever met John, he is the type of guy who, like, if he gets an idea in his head for you to play something, you're going to, and there's really not much you can do about it.
Yeah.
Because that's how
island style in B flat. That's what you're doing now. It's like, okay, John, whatever you say.
This was it. I was backstage because that was the night I played with Raitea. And you remember Keith Kawamura?
No.
He went to Kauai too. He's good guitar player. And Keith plays 12-string really nicely. John heard him play in the courtyard with other people.
You're
Said,
playing with
you
us
play
now."
with me tonight. So okay.
I love reminiscing.
So when I was putting my bass away, Keith looks at me with that evil glint in his eye, and he goes, "Hey John, this song would sound good with bass, yeah?" I'm like, "Oh, you son of a." So John looks at me like, "Yeah, what's your name, bro?" Mike. It's like, "You go play with us." It's like, "Oh, I don't know the song you're gonna play and everything like that. I don't want to mess it up." And it's like, "No, bro, go be fine. No. It's like, "No, I really don't think I should." And he got right in my face and said, "Come on, Hawaiian, go, bro."
And he called you Hawaiian? I'm so jealous. You don't call me Hawaiian.
and I was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna win this argument."
Man.
So we went back out on stage and we played his set.
Yeah.
And then he said, "We're gonna play Beautiful Kauai," and I'm like, "That makes no sense."
Yeah.
And he said, "But we have a special dancer," and somehow someone had convinced Lisa Loeb
To dance.
to learn how to dance Beautiful Kauai. So she came in a white halter with a big hakulele, and she danced Beautiful
wasn't
Kauai
there for
hula.
that.
That was the year before.
Oh man.
That was, to this day, is still one of the weirdest ones I've ever seen. I was like, I've played on stage with Lisa Loeb, but she wasn't actually playing nor singing.
She was
dancing hula. And I can't even find pictures of it. I really wish I could.
Dang. Okay. Well, we gotta go, guys.
Sorry, guys.
This is overtime. No, that's not that. This is 5 minutes. It's fine. You know? It's just
we're
the
done.
more people we list, the more Kahai has to like put the.
You know,
link
Lisa
down
was
for the-
dating Diesel Zappa at the time.
Like 12 a.m., 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
He's not hunting today.
Just
Mike.
Yep.
All right, guys. We'll see you folks next time. Check us out and check out the brand new lesson. Is Kamaka Viva Ole Hene Hene Koaka. We teach you folks all parts basically of that song, and
Aaron's
also,
editing magic.
Yeah, look at that. He even did 2 separate videos, one for Instagram and one for YouTube. So check both of those out. They're 2 different videos. So make sure you check out both videos if you really want to master that song. Watch both. That you're gonna need to. Okay. We'll see you folks next time. Aloha. Thank you, Magic Mike.
Hey, anytime, bro.